If you want to stay connected with me and talk to me, the best way to do that would be to join my Discord server. I'm really active in there, probably more than a lot of content creators my size, because I just really value that connection and the constant back and forth between myself and the people who watch my videos. You can ask me questions, we can talk about League or whatever else, you can be a part of a really cool community, and pretty much every single week I'm in there playing normal games with fans in NA, so if you're North America, you can definitely join my Discord and play some fan games.
Where's the comms at? I'm slowing him. Oh my god, okay, it's up to you, buddy.
We've been on and off again and again. I don't know which way we're going, no control. Push me then you pull me back in. Don't know if I can decipher how you know. Yeah, you leave me wondering what it's like through your skin. I won't keep trying till you give me a sign.
When you think of champions that are iconic in League of Legends, ones that are omnipresent in the meta and off the rift with the community being extremely popular, Ezreal might be the champion that you think of the most. In almost every single season, he's a strong and viable AD carry in the bottom lane. However, even though he holds that title of AD carry or marksman, his kit is very different from pretty much all ADCs. He's not reliant on crit. He usually doesn't take the same type of runes, shout out to Klepto Ezreal. He can build AP, he has 4 skill shots, and he can even build an item that's meant to be for tanks. In game, he ends up playing out more like a mage rather than the right-clicking counterparts in his lane, but AP Ezreal isn't as good as his normal AD build, right? Sure, he has some good AP ratios, but his mid lane wave clear is far too weak, and the build takes way too long to come online. He functions far better as a bottom laner, and the Manamune into Sheen item combo is just the superior playstyle for him in modern day League of Legends. But exactly 5 years ago, during late June and early July of 2015, the summer of mid lane AP Ezreal was in full swing. He was on a tear, dominating solo queue at the highest level and popping off in competitive play. His rise to the top was almost as fast as how quickly he fell off and it was nerfed, but for about 1 month he was probably the strongest champion in the game. What's interesting is that it was all possible by taking something usually reserved for another role, the jungle. This is the story of AP Ezreal in the mid lane who took Smite.
Nobody knows but
Ability power, or AP Ezreal, has always been a thing. There have been times where it was stronger, but more or less, it was never completely trolling to play him full AP, and it does still work in 2020. His ultimate True Shot Barrage will become your favorite tool while playing AP Ezreal. The AoE global skill shot has always had a very strong AP ratio, allowing you to have excellent wave clear with it. You can start a team fight with massive poke, or even finish off multiple enemies at the end of a team fight when everybody is low. Back in 2018, Ezreal was given a mini rework and a champion update. Of all of their champion updates, this might be the best one that Riot has ever done. While all his changes were small and it was mostly a visual update, his W was completely reworked. Essence Flux is now the mark that we know today, and it does still have a strong AP ratio. It ends up scaling to a 90% AP ratio at rank 5. This new W and its visuals are awesome, but the old Essence Flux was part of what made AP Ezreal so good. To understand just how overloaded he used to be, we have to go all the way back to 2010. I'm sure most of you will still be familiar with this version of his Essence Flux. When his W still had a solid AP ratio, it dealt magic damage and increased the attack speed on allies. If you go back 10 years ago, his W had way more utility, and his AP build was top tier. On his release, Essence Flux not only increased allied attack speed, but it also lowered enemy attack speed, and it healed your allies. The healing ratio was 1-to-1, meaning that if your W dealt 500 damage, it would heal your teammates for 500 health in its AoE. His R at the time also had a 100% AP ratio. Players would love and abuse AP mid lane Ezreal back then. He was one of the strongest champions in the game, and as a mage and marksman hybrid, he could build according to your team's needs. His utility was completely unmatched for a champion that did that much damage. A good way to put into perspective just how strong Ezreal was back then is to remember the mobility creep that we've experienced over time in League of Legends. Remember, most of the time back then, champions did not have mobility, especially not on the levels of Ezreal and Kassadin, who happened to be some of the best champions in League's early years. Also, he was basically one of a kind, having utility and damage. Another champion that's similar to him was Corki, but Corki is pretty much all damage and no utility, but Ezreal had both. As you can probably guess, during his very early years, he had this reputation of being constantly nerfed. The players that loved to play Ezreal back then with their AP build felt that he got weaker and weaker over time, but that was exactly the goal of Riot. One by one, mechanics in his kit were either tuned way down or removed completely. His AP ratios were gutted, and soon after we would see Ezreal find his permanent home in the bottom lane using an AD build. For the next 5 years, AP Ezreal was a niche pick at best, similar to what it is now, and it wasn't necessarily optimal, but that brings us to 2015.
But it seems that top laners have also caught onto the new Cinderhook and started running teleport with Smite.
During Season 5, Riot had a problem. There were roles other than the jungle consistently taking Smite, and we first saw this with the introduction of Cinderhulk. This new tank jungle item was so strong on its release that it would end up single-handedly shaping the meta for about the next 10 months. Champions like Sejuani, Gragas, and Nunu were building as tanky as possible, and they would become some of the best junglers in the game. Pretty soon, players figured out that they wanted more. When Cinderhulk exists in this state, why not build more than one? Shyvana, Renekton, Hecarim, and other top laners began taking Smite and Teleport for the sole purpose of getting a Cinderhulk. With two massive frontline tanks on your team, it became nearly impossible to cut through them and get to the backline. The tank junglers would rule the metagame with their brand new jungle item, so Riot tried to help out the other style of junglers too. One of the ways was to give them Devour, which is something that we covered in the last video, and specifically Sated Devour. So if you haven't seen that yet, definitely go check that out. But you could also do something else, give AP junglers a new jungle item. Season 5's AP jungle item started out as Magus, which gave 80 AP and 20% CDR. It didn't really help junglers clear all that much though, since it didn't have any mana restoring passives like the other future AP jungle enchantments. It was kind of just a stat item, which is fine, but not really that interesting. So Riot thought to themselves, if it's not that interesting of an item and they're not strong in the meta, there's room for improvement here. So on patch 5.12, we were given Runeglaive. Sadly, for actual AP junglers, the item was still not that good. Most AP junglers don't really care about a sheen effect. Unfortunately, for champions like Fiddlesticks, Karthus, Amumu, or Gragas, those AP junglers basically didn't benefit at all from this item, and this very reason would be why we would see another version of an AP jungle item when we finally got Runic Echoes, which is what we still have today. Luckily though, sometimes in life, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and that's exactly where Ezreal comes in. The most interesting part about Runeglaive had to be the passive, where it converted your physical damage on basic attacks completely into magic damage. If you know anything about Ezreal's Q, this makes your mouth water. Now, normally when playing Ezreal, your Q does physical damage. Building AP is still helpful for him because the Q does indeed have an AP ratio, so it'll increase the damage, but at the end of the day, it's still physical. You can get by this slightly by building Lichbane, as you'll get a magic damage sheen proc, but you'll still have to split this damage roughly 50-50 between physical and magic damage.
This time we're going to be talking about Runeglaive Ezreal. Everyone's been playing, and we saw Xiao just do it against CLG, but it's happening all over the world. European, LCS, NALCS, 100% pick ban in Turkey. He got played in the LCK last night because they're now in that patch. We're going to be seeing a lot of this guy in the future.
With your Q dealing physical damage, this meant that AP Ezreal's main consistent damaging ability over time never really benefits that much from magic penetration like Sorcerer's Shoes and Void Staff. But Runeglaive converted all of the physical damage on your Q completely to magic damage on the Sheen proc. This added so much more damage to AP Ezreal because your Void Staff, magic penetration runes, and your Sorc Shoes would be vastly more efficient. Runeglaive also had an AoE on the Spellblade proc, increasing wave clear. On top of that, you could use Red Smite to duel, Blue Smite to slow, or even Purple Smite aka Ranger's Trailblazer for more AoE and sustain, not to mention just how much cheaper Runeglaive was than Lichbane, meaning you weren't also stuck there farming for 30 minutes in order to be strong. All you really needed was this one item. The very next day after this patch went live in late June of 2015, players started talking about Ezreal mid with Smite. Plenty of popular YouTubers of course had to jump on the hype train, talking about the build and all of its strengths, and telling you that you can play this and abuse it in your ranked games. This would skyrocket his popularity and his ban rate in solo queue, but the question would then be, will we see this in professional play?
So strong. Oh dear. Hot damn.
And with Dragon up in 33 seconds. Home guard teleport coming in for Darius. They want the game now.
Oh.
Not giving him time to recall.
Pops all the Banshees fails. If there were any, Emperor goes down first. That's the Trist. It's going to be Ninja next. Does he go down? No.
Ignite.
Actually stays alive. Gets the shield coming in from the Lulu. Seraph able to keep him there, but smoothly.
Glacial Fissure. Mickey down the front line. Had to save his ally. And Mickey will pay for Sanyun's positioning there with his own life. Now everybody on the run. Coco with the kill on the Thresh. Coco keeps on moving through. Double kill for him. And that will be the triple for the Runeglaive Ezreal. He'll end the game 7-0-4.
His mid game was pretty unmatched for a mid lane champion. All he had to do was wait for the Runeglaive after 10 minutes, and the poke, burst, and DPS were all very strong. Once you babysat him for just a little bit of time, he could start carrying your team, and pro players could farm up a really big KDA on him. We would see some awesome gameplay and scores from the likes of Bjergsen, Pobelter, Doin B, and Xiaohu. During the summer split of 2015, he would be banned a total of 48 times. Unfortunately, we can't exactly say if he was always banned specifically for the mid lane, because he was still a decent ADC, but we know for sure that he was picked 60 times in the mid lane. After 1 month of destruction in solo queue and competitive play, after being one of the biggest flavor of the month picks we've ever seen, on 5.14, the core reasons why this worked for AP Ezreal mid were removed. Runeglaive would no longer convert the entire basic attack into magic damage, which meant that Ezreal's Q would have to go back to dealing physical damage, and the AoE was now only applied to jungle monsters and not minions, which would ruin the wave clear. For the players out there that abused it and had a lot of fun with it, you got your 1 month of freelo. For those that hated it and banned it all the time, it was good riddance. Mid lane Ezreal has never been a prominent pick in competitive play since those days. In recent times, the closest thing that we've had for AP Ezreal was the double tier build. From mid-2018 till early 2019, Ezreals were commonly seen building Manamune and Archangels, and after that he could transition into something like a Gunblade or even a Deathcap if he wanted to focus on more AP. For ADCs and bot laners, this build was top tier for quite a while, but in March of 2019, the possibility of building 2 tier items in one game was no longer allowed. Nowadays, AP Ez is pretty much reserved for game modes like URF and ARAM. It can still work in your ranked games, but there's a reason why he's better bot lane as an AD champion. Right now, he's actually one of the strongest champions in the game, right up there with Aphelios for ADCs, and the Conqueror build has been consistently good in all elos. With Kleptomancy gone and AP Ezreal no longer viable, we'll have to see just how long he'll stay in the meta and stay strong. But for now, he's still a League of Legends iconic champion, one that you're going to see for the next several years. He's still going to receive skins, and he's still going to be loved by those who main him, and hated by those that don't like playing against him. Anyway, that was the history of AP Ezreal and AP Ezreal mid with Smite. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.